Now that you've logged into Adobe Creative Cloud, the next step is to find the Adobe Aero app. So I'm going to go ahead and click on here, View All Apps. Your screen might look slightly different. And then you can scroll down and look at all the available apps. And somewhere down here, you'll find Adobe Aero. Now, I've already clicked on Adobe Aero, so I've got it under my installed. That's going to install Adobe Aero for you. Then you're going to go ahead and click Open, and that's going to open Adobe Aero. Now, Adobe Aero is in its beta mode. It's been in beta mode for quite some time. And this is going to give me my Adobe Aero space. So this is where you're going to create your AR experience. So if I click on New File, I can name my project. Maybe I call this AR project for Dr. Cop. You could call it whatever you want. And there's a bunch of different anchors. We're just going to do a surface anchor. Location anchor is actually can be at a location in a map, geolocation. Then image anchors, you could actually use an image that could pop up the augmented reality. We're just going to use the surface, which means we can put it on any kind of surface, and then we'll view it as we see the surface. Now, your surface might look a little different. So for example, if you're under preferences, you might be in dark mode. Kind of makes it a little darker. I don't prefer dark mode, but if you do, that's where you do it. You go up under, of course, edit, preferences, and you can select your mode. So here we are in this space. This is the space where we're going to create our augmented reality elements. And I'm just going to start right away by grabbing an abstract shape, cone. I'm double clicking on the cone, and the cone appears within the space. And now I have certain elements. So these arrows are going to let me move the cone off of that center point. So I can move the cone. I can also then move it this way. So I have lots of ways I can move the cone. I can even move it up in space. Now I also have, so those are the arrows. I also have circles, which allow me to rotate the object, in this case the cone. I can rotate on different axes. I can rotate it here, right? So I can go kind of this way on the x-axis, and I can also move the item, make it larger or smaller by clicking on these squares. So I now have control over the object. Now I also have those same controls here. I have the move, I have the rotate, and I have the scale, which is exactly what we just did. But if you only want to focus on just scale, you click on that, and now notice I can just change the scale of the object. If I just wanted to focus on rotate, I could just click on that and focus on the rotation, not have to worry about scale or anything like that. Or I could also just focus on move, and move my object. So these three elements here allow me to move, to rotate, and to scale any object I bring into the 3D space. Now I have some more things that I can do. I'm going to just click here and minimize the abstract space. I can add different characters and things like that that we're going to do. But notice down here we have similar controls. We have one called an orbit, one called a pan, and one called a dolly. If I click on orbit, it allows me to move around the object, but I'm not changing the object. So if I want to see it from different dimensions, I can go ahead and hit the orbit. If I want to do the pan, I can do pan. So pan's going to let me, kind of come in and out of the object, pan in and out. Think of it as a camera panning in and out. And I can even also do the last control here, and I can get kind of an image there and an image there. So it allows me to do like lots of different things as I look at my object. So these are the controls on the left-hand side. The bottom three do not control the object. They simply allow you to orbit it, pan it, as well as do a dolly. So those are those items. But here is where I can actually move it, I can actually rotate it, and I can actually scale it. Now, these are all under the control of edit. If I hit preview, it actually lets me preview what it's going to look like in my three-dimensional space. So I have a preview. So you're a lot going to go between edit and preview to look at your objects. So that's what we have here. And we can add different things to the object. One of my favorites is directable characters. So I can actually click on somebody like Clay and add Clay to the environment. Now Clay is giant there, so maybe I don't want giant Clay, right? So maybe I want to shrink Clay. So I'm going to go down to scale, and then I'm going to grab this corner and I'm going to scale Clay down, and there we go. So that is very helpful for that. And I also can move Clay. So maybe I want Clay to be moved over here. So now that's my shape and my character. And if I hit preview, you can see this is what the two are going to look like side by side. Go back to edit. So what I might want to do here is add kind of objects and things like that. We can have objects show or not show, lots of different things. But notice what happened. When I did this, I now have a cone and I have Clay. Now I can change the name. Maybe I don't want to name it Clay. Maybe I want to name it Frank. And I can change the names if I want to. So this is telling me what I've got on my surface, allowing me to name them. Why is it important to name them? Because later on I'm going to be doing actions and I might want an action to point to a specific name. And here are some basic actions I can do already. I could delete it if I didn't want to do that. So if you have something in your object that you don't like, you can delete. You can also, of course, duplicate. So let's click on that. We get this kind of movement, and I left click and drag, and there's my duplicated item after duplicate. So now I can show you the delete, like maybe we don't want to do that. Oh, there we go. Back to Frank, formerly known as Clay, and I can actually group a couple together so I can move things all as one. I don't want to do that now. And I can move things back to the section. So if I click on this and I click here, it's going to align it. Notice it aligned it back to the main surface. So if I have something that's a little bit off or not aligned, I can click on that. I can also then, if I want to, automatically rescale. So if I click on Clay and I hit rescale, it's going to go down, right? And so I can rescale my items, and I can move Clay all around if I wanted to, and move him backwards and forwards, all kinds of good stuff with Clay. But I also, if I wanted to, I can come here and scale and have Clay go back up. So you can see some of these do the same thing as the controls over here. I also have the ability here to revert to the original size. So remember, Clay was giant when he first came in. If I click on that, there he's giant again. I only want to scale him down. There we go. And then I can replace. So I can replace that. And under here, I have all kinds of precision controls. So I can be very precise about where I want the item, how I want it to work. I have some object. I can have it cast a shadow or receive a shadow. I could use it as a mark. We're not going to do any of that at the moment. Right now, that's kind of the basics of what we see. And we're going to then check out the preview. There we are. Then we're going to check out down here where we can look at some behaviors, which are an important element of working in the 3D space. All right, so let's make Frank appear. So right now, if we go to the preview, we can see that Frank is there. And so, as I said before, we're going to go down to behaviors. We're going to click on the behavior, and this is where we're going to add something to the scene. So I don't know why all these starts are here, but let's go. When the scene starts, what we're going to do is we're going to hide Frank. So we'll go here. We have lots of different things we can do, lots of behaviors. So we're actually going to go find the behavior hide. And that's going to happen. So when the scene starts, but who are we hiding? Who are we hiding? We don't have a subject. We have to choose one. We're going to hide Frank. So now let's take a look. So if we get a preview, we can see that Frank is not there. We can click all around, no Frank, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to trigger Frank showing up when we click on the cone. So let's click on trigger, and we're going to tap. And what are we going to tap? Well, we're going to show when we do that. And we're going to show, and we're going to show Frank. So when we tap, we're going to show Frank. So, but what are we tapping? Oh, we are tapping the cone. So one of the nice things about Adobe Aero is when something's not going right, you can see this little kind of warning. And it tells you something's wrong. So I use a combination of over here to the left and over the right. So there's tap. I'm going to go cone. So we're going to tap the cone, and we're going to actually show Frank. So let's see what happens. There we go. and that allows us to have a little bit of interaction. So that's Adobe Aero. Now we highlighted several things. For example, we highlighted the controls that we can use. We highlighted the views. We highlighted the elements that come with Adobe. Now, there's one other thing you can do. You can click on here and you can actually import an item. So if you have a 3D object, or if you have anything, I don't have any 3D objects there, but I actually have pictures, and you can actually import 2D objects into your environment. So if you wanted to, you can click on a 2D object and you can then bring that in. Here is my 2D object. And I can use that maybe as the background and have that there as well. If I hit preview, you can kind of see there's my object. Notice that Frank is in here. I click on Frank and Frank shows up. So you're able to bring in not just 3D objects, but 2D objects. You're able to not just work with objects that come with Adobe Aero, but you can bring in your own objects as well. And there's lots of different objects that you can play with and that you can work with inside of this environment. Here are just some flowers that I brought in. I probably want to move this out of the way. And you can start to create scenes and start to provide some instructional elements as you import objects into Adobe Aero. So that's the idea of Adobe Aero. Those are the basics that you need to get started. Now I want to actually show you one more thing. So if you download Adobe Aero to your smartphone, you can actually do a number of things with it. So one of them, for example, is I'm going to be able to show on my desk here the actual project. So here I'm going to get the horizontal space. There's my cone. There I am. I can click there, and now I'm actually in an edit mode. I don't want to edit here. I want to preview. And if I hit preview, notice that I've got this cone in this 3D space. And if I tap on the cone, because it's my phone, our friend Frank shows up. So this is what it looks like in an actual environment, an actual AR environment. And the nice thing is we have a recording here at the bottom, so I can record that. And that's how I'm going to ask you to turn in your assignment, actually as a little video. I'm going to have you create a scene in an AR environment. You'll come to your AR item and you'll show the interaction. And there I am. I just clicked on it with my finger, and there's our friend Frank. So this is what the AR is going to allow you to do.